Graba.
Hey, it's Joe. Back again with another bug gun review. This isn't really a bug gun, but I kind of went down, I told you this once before, I kind of went down a rabbit hole with 365s and about like parts to make like 4 or 5 of them this off season. And this is kind of the first one to come together. This is a 365 XLMacro. That's what I'm calling it because I don't know what else to call it. So it's the same as the idea as the macro, but this is a slide from FDEZ. I think that's how you say it. I found it on ARFCOM, and I got so this is a ported slide, not a ported barrel, but it's the 4.7-inch barrel instead of the 3.1-inch barrel like on the macro. This is a macro frame I got from SIG. They're selling them. So yeah, shot it in a match today. Check out a couple of the stages and then come back and get you a good look at it, and then come back with some pros and cons about this thing, because there are some. Most of them are my fault because I made it.
A smart man say twice that word for somebody else. Excellent.
Okay, so here we are over the tabletop with the P365 FDEZ XLMacro and the Chopped Legion P320. This has got almost the same setup. So Dawson Precision competition sights, Bilguns gas pedal. This one's got the light on it, but it's also got the Dawsons. And I remember when they came out with the macro, I thought to myself, oh, you mean a thin P320 compact? And that's essentially what it is. So these guns are pretty similar, except for the thickness of the P320. And this is being the TXG frame is a lot heavier. But that's the two. They function similarly. No slider release on my side. Not the end of the world. Trigger pull is decent. There's a little bit of creep that can be worked on. There's the macro, not the macro, the M-Carbo trigger kit is in here. This has got a Gray Guns guts and Killer Innovations trigger in it. So yeah, not a lot of differences between those two except for the weight. I will say, for me, this one fits better in my hand. I don't know if I usually don't like thinner grips. I like thicker grips better than thinner grips, but this one really fits in my hand well. I think it's going to be a winner for CCP division. It'll be fun to try, especially with the Icarus frame. Once that, they make them, I don't want to say slowly, but they sell out every time, so they're kind of hard to get a hold of. But that's the next evolution for this, is the full slide 4-inch barrel and Icarus precision grip frame. So let's take a look at a few more stages, and we'll come back with some pros and cons.
Okay, so those are the stages. It was a good match. This was a memorial match for a former shooter and friend from Renton Fishing Game Club. He was the guy who gave me my new shooter orientation when I started in the shooting sports. So dearly missed friend, passed away a few years ago. But let's get into some of the pros and cons for the FDEZ 365 XLMacro, which is a name I made up. There's not really a name for this. Pros, I get a full grip on this thing. So the macro frame, you can get my whole hand on it. So the XL frame, I can get most of my hand on it, but this little bit here kind of can get in the way of reloads. My fat hands can get in the way of reloads. So that happens. It's not that big of a deal with the XL, but you just get a little more with the macro. So good thing there. The XL slide, you get a longer sight radius. So theoretically, that should make me more accurate. It did not make me more accurate today, but when I got home, in my defense, the rear sight, almost said slide, the rear sight was like I could just move it within here. And so I'm going to say all those shots that weren't touching each other were because the sight was broken. But I Loctited it back down, centered it, Loctited it down with blue Loctite because I didn't want to do red because I'm afraid that I move parts and slide so much that I'm like, I might want these sights on something else. So I know you just heat it up with the red and somebody's going to say it. Oh, you just heat it up, take it off. But it's hard for me. Another pro, it fit in the appendix holster that I already had, pretty much. There was a little bit, it was covered in the trigger guard, so it was legal, but it wasn't like all the way down in there. I think if I went and cut out the bottom, because there's a bottom on this holster, some of the open face or open bottomed holsters, it would fit and easier. But it fit in there well enough to use it in competition. I've got a holster coming for it that's designed to fit with the way that the macro is compared to the other ones with the light on it. I didn't get to use the light in competition because it wouldn't fit in there with the light, but I put the light back on it now. Another pro, 17 round magazines for this gun. That's pretty awesome. I said this for a while. I said this when this gun came out, and I said it before. When this came out, I was like, oh, 365 XMacro, you mean a 320 compact? And it's pretty much a thin 320 compact. It is to the 320 compact what the 48 is to a Glock 19. It's just thinner. So it is what it is. The other good thing, you get the 15 round magazines. You can make these fit. So I took the 12 round base plate and just trimmed the back right here. There's a little lip that prevents it from going on all the way, but it was a quick, with the Dremel, knock that off, and it fit right on there, and it fits in the gun. So if you live in a state like Washington where you don't get to have magazines anymore because we're communists and they ban them, you can, if you have these already, they're grandfathered in, you can make the magazines fit. And I think they're a little longer than the 17 round mags. The way the 17 round mags are in there, I could be wrong about that because I don't get any. Eventually I'll buy some of the 10 round ones, the 10 round 17 length ATF. Yeah, I'll be able to see then. Another one, or just basically another thing to talk about, I guess. Even though it's, left-handedness, there's just no slide release on my side. I'm getting over that. It used to be like a deal breaker for me because in IDPA we were doing emergency reloads like every time. But with the new rule for slide forward reloads, it's not as hard and fast for me. The magazine release is reversible, so good enough for government work. It fits in the CCP box. So you couldn't shoot it in bug, it's too big for that. But you can shoot it in CCP without the comp on it. But I thought about that. So I found this one with the comp on it. But I also found a slide and barrel that's a 4-inch barrel and a non-compensated slide. So that when those arrive, so slowly over Black Friday and all these sales, I've been just buying things and they show up and I build guns. But eventually when that gets here, I'll be able to make a CCP gun out of this. I think that's going to be a pretty good contender for CCP, especially once I can get the Icarus Precision XMacro frame, because they're hard to get a hold of. They're supposed to open up the pre-order again in the end of this month in December. So hopefully I can get on the list and get one. But yeah, the last thing, probably the biggest thing for me, is that it's a really easy transition from my bug gun that's a 365 and my everyday carry gun that's a 365 to shooting this. So it's the same width as every other 365, and it fits in an appendix carry, and you don't really notice it. Last year I shot CCP for the first time in a major match at Washington State with the gun you saw, the 320 compact, and it was like uncomfortable. It was just, I don't know, maybe it's not a big thing for other people, but for me it was like, this is just too thick to appendix carry all day, and it got uncomfortable, and maybe it's the holster I had, I don't know. But this thing, you put it in your pants and you just don't even know it's there. Yeah. Moving on to the cons. I had a magwell for it. There's not a lot of aftermarket support for this. There's more than, it's catching up quickly, but there's not as much as other guns. The tactical development magwell, there's a, almost dropped it. There's a hole in the back of this, and it attaches through a hole that in the back of the removable back strap, where you put in a little piece of metal that's got threads, and then you thread the screw through this into that. And when I put it on, it would just continue to turn. And so I Loctited that, but the first stage, you couldn't see it in the recording, but the first stage, first reload, the magwell came flying off. And so I found the magwell, the piece that holds the screw in is still in the gun, but the screw's gone. It's this tiny little screw. So tactical development, we got to figure out something better. Katana, the Empire Katana, they're going to make one of those for the macro. I'm on the list for that. I've already paid for it, so it'll be here at some point. Another con, the Dawson precision sights. They're good, but I really prefer a thinner blade on the front sight, and they just don't make anything competition sights for the 365. Probably because it's not a competition gun, but I compete with it. So I emailed them and asked them, like, hey, will your 320 sights, because it's, SIG sights are confusing. There's like the 6 front and the 8 rear and all this stuff, and so rather than try and figure it out for myself, I just emailed Dawson and was like, hey, will these 320 sights fit on the 365? And they said no. But I don't know, I took 365 sights and put them on a 320, and so I don't know why it would go down but not up. I don't know. So I thought about trying it, but I don't know. I think 320. I think Dawson just says no, it won't, because they don't want to be responsible if I screw it up or I spend 80 or 90 bucks on sights that don't work. But I don't know. Even if I do, I'll just put them on some other 320. The 15 round mags. This is another con. The 15 round mags are kind of hitchy. I don't know. It doesn't seem. I've never loaded them to. Well, I have loaded them to 15, but not in competition, because every time I shoot them, I don't need to or can't. And so if you load them to 10 or 11, 12, good to go. But man, it's really tough getting that last round in there. And then on top of that, sometimes not the rounds, the follower will get stuck somewhere in here, and then it just holds all the rounds down here. And so you're not getting any more feeding up, and you kind of bang on it, and then they go shoop, and they stick in there, or they come back out. But that's only when I'm like unloading and loading it. It doesn't seem to happen when I'm firing. It's never happened while I was firing or in competition. So I don't know. A potential time waster while you're on the clock, should that happen then. That's about it for this guy. There's going to be more. I'm going to make more videos on this, in more builds, because I've got another one that I completed today that's going to be a bug gun for, it's got a light on it, all this stuff that's now legal. So more fun building guns, becoming the thing I said I would never do, is buy guns and make guns for no reason. But here I am, just doing it. So we'll see more from this guy, though, because this isn't done. I just really wanted to shoot the macro and see what it was about, so I figured I'd share it with you guys. If you like these type of videos, check out the playlist for the bug reviews or the small gun reviews. There's more up on there on our playlist. And then if you have the time, check out www.dz214.com, where you can donate to the veterans charities that we partner with. We really appreciate your support on that, and they deserve it. So check that out, and we'll see you on the next one, or we'll see you on the range.
Does 511 sponsor you yet?
Oh yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
All cops.